Well, my name is Mike Thornton. This is my wife, Lori, and we're the co-owners of the corporation called Get a Grip. And we install a proprietary slip prevention treatment on hard walking surfaces, the bottoms of bathtubs, tile in the back kitchen areas of restaurants and fast food operations, and also other sidewalks, pool decks, and the like. Basically anywhere where a potential slip and fall accident or incident could occur, if our product is in place, we pretty much prevent those accidents from happening. And because of the litigious nature of the United States, slip and fall protection is a big deal. It can be very costly if you have a claim and you're found at fault. And then if you haven't done anything to mitigate the slippery situation, punitive damages have been awarded to people. So it can be up 6 figures, 7 figures, depending on the seriousness of the injury. And these baby shoes I have filled with cement. We don't sell or treat the bottom of the shoes, we treat the surface that you're walking on. A common misconception is that that we treat the bottom of most shoes that are purchased by the general public, but I basically wanted to have a situation where, as a demonstration aid, something small, cute, but it keeps you from falling down, including this tile here. This particular tile is a product by Dow Tile, which is a major tile manufacturer and distributor, and this tile has been certified to be compliant with the Americans with Disability Act compliance standard, something that President Younger Bush put into force to help people who have handicaps and stuff be able to safely enter premises, handicap-sized rooms, handicap parking spaces, and the like. And this tile was certified to be compliant with the slip standard set up by the Americans with Disability Act, which is a higher standard than OSHA, which is, most people are familiar with OSHA as far as for work locations. But the client that had this tile installed, all of his employees went down the very first day that it was installed, and he threatened to sue Dow Tile if they didn't correct it. So they brought us in to fix the problem, and they were able to successfully open the restaurant within 12 hours after we did the treatment. It's a quick drying solution. Once we treat an area, an average size area, 1,000 square feet or so, can be treated in an hour and 15 minutes if there are drains available to put the rinse water down. 1 hour to dry, they can resume normal activity in those areas. Similar situation with bathtubs, which is where we've been doing most of our work. We can go in and treat a guest room bathtub in 10 minutes, an hour drying time, and they can return that room back into rentable inventory for the hotel, so they don't lose revenues from the work. They just pay what we're charging them to do the service. We were established in 1994 in California and moved to Nevada in 2001, and been here ever since. Is a cosmetic standard that the client may want to maintain if they have tile that's in a presentation area, a walkway, or a front entry, as opposed to quarry tile in the back in the kitchen where no one's going to see it. That's from the general public. They're eating in the restaurant in the front, but the employee safety in the back is what we're addressing. So we came up, this process comes up to where we don't significantly change the outward appearance of the tile. We don't make it rougher or sandy or textured, which would make it harder to clean, but we're able to accomplish the grip without impacting negatively on those circumstances. So there's different colors that are represented here by these tiles. There's a wide variety of color choices that are out in the marketplace. Some of those we're not able to treat as effectively cosmetically, but on all projects we're always able to exceed or match the ADA compliance standard as far as the slip resistance that's in place, which is what the insurance companies are looking for before they can give the client the okay to go ahead and have something like this put in, because if it works and they've had accidents and they don't have accidents after we've had this process down, they start getting back the penalty percentages that are charged on their premiums. And if this is installed in a business that's owned by a single owner, and they do $1 million a year in revenues or less, or have 35 or fewer employees, there is a tax credit from the Americans with Disability Act for almost half the cost of the treatment back on their income taxes at the end of that particular tax year. So there's a savings involved on their insurance. Also, that they're doing a capital improvement, that they're getting something back from the government because the Americans with Disability Act wants to reward them for mitigating those slippery areas and making it safer for the public and their employees and salespeople who happen to come onto the property so they're not getting hurt.
Do you just deal with a commercial application of this? Or?
When I initially started the company, it was almost 80% residential and 20% commercial, mostly friends and neighbors, and it was a small project cost, so it was a fairly easy sell. But in the same amount of time that I can do a residential project, I can do 1,000 square feet of tile in a restaurant, or 25 bathtubs in a hotel setting where I'm getting anywhere from $20 to $30 a tub, and anywhere from $1 to $1.50 a square foot for the floor treatment. So I can make more money in the same amount of time. But then again, it's a lot easier to sell somebody on a single bathtub in their home as opposed to trying to close a hotel that's got 1,000 room property, and there's all this stuff, all the things have to be organized as far as how long is this going to take, where is your staff going to be, are you going to be storing materials here, do we need to issue with walkie-talkies, and there's all kinds of hoops that you have to jump through. But it's worth it once you break the ice, particularly since we are a certified Hilton hotel contractor since 2003. So we've already gone through all those hoops back in 2001, went through 2 years of testing to get certified, and then that way when we contact a Hilton hotel property, whether it's a Hampton Inn, DoubleTree, Embassy Suites, whatever, they go, oh, are you a certified company with Hilton? Can I contact our purchasing department? Do they have your name on file? We're in their system. So it's a lot easier to get that particular contract because we're already kind of pre-verified, pre-certified. As you know, these companies have passed all of our requirements. You should go ahead and bring them in. It's all going to boil down to whether you can afford to have it done now, or whether you need to wait 6 months, or if you need to budget this as a capital expenditure because of the size of the project.
So we're probably 95% business, even maybe slightly higher.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of residential now.
I'm starting to solicit in my neighborhood now, so the 1 and 2 tubs at a time. I just did the board member of our HOA. His wife lived next door to him, and one of the in-laws' grandparents bought another house in the development, and she's had a hip replacement, and so they're concerned that because she's not as stable as she would be, plus she's elderly, that something like this for her and all their family members would be a good investment, since it's not that much money to do it, versus how much would it cost you, even if you just had to pay your deductible to go to the hospital because you're shattered an elbow or bumped your head and have to have stitches or whatever.
How long have you been doing this?
I worked for another company starting in 1989 and then opened my own shop in 1994 in Northern California.
Who developed this product?
I did, along with the help of a couple of fellows in California on the initial, and then with a chemist here in Las Vegas who worked for a major wholesale distributor who sat down with me, and we went over and fine-tuned some other back in California, but we've developed those processes here. So
who owns the patent on that?
It's not patented, it's proprietary, so I hold all the books, all the chemical workups, and the actual formulas as far as what part A plus B plus C equals.
The first company that he worked with had some problems with EPA and the product, so they stopped doing it. Their formula was different, and it had some caustic substances in that were subsequently.
So who's your competition?
Safe Step is probably our main competitor. They are also one of the other companies that's in that Hilton preferred network.
There's a bunch there.
And they have multiple offices around the country. So as far as main competitors, we're just a 2-person shop here in Las Vegas, but we do have that important testing that's been done that puts us on equal footing with them. It's just a matter of being able to get in front of the decision makers wherever the projects might be if they're outside of our traveling distance here in town. So I do a lot of back and forth to California because I still maintain business operations where I originally started. But as soon as we start to head east, we're competing with Safe Step and Tight Grip, and they all have some kind of name. Like ours is Get a Grip. You know, there's Safe Step, Tight Grip. Safe Step was the company I used to work with. So there's some kind of nomenclature in there that kind of identifies that this has something to do with walking or your feet or something like that. There's a Slip Tech, Safety Enterprises systems.
They all have similar products where you apply a chemical.
Right. Some of them are, the formulas obviously differ considerably. There's a couple of companies that still do grid, or they try and what's that called? When you, the one that does the circles.
Oh, yeah, they actually
They
engrave circles in the tile to give a different type of roughness underfoot.
But it completely changes how it looks.
Oh.
It doesn't, so,
Yeah, the main problem that we're addressing is that tile and bathtubs and any other brick and stuff, at some point they're fired. And when they're subjected to heat, which in this case hardens the clay that makes this tile, and then they put the glaze on or whatever, there are hard and soft areas there because the soft floats to the top through the heating process. Well, just like a dentist, when you go to the dentist, takes the plaque away from your teeth, that's the soft portion. You'd be exposing your biting surfaces by removing that plaque. We're removing the plaque off the top of this tile that's the soft, which is the slippery portion of the tile. So we remove it topically down 3/1000ths of an inch, which is enough to eliminate that slipperiness from the soft portion of the tile, and then we're microscopically roughening the surface on the hard portions, so when you're walking across, it's like an invisible fingerprint. So you're actually stepping on these little microscopic grids, but by hand you really can't tell that anything is there. We don't macroscopically roughen it, we microscopically etch it. So some of the processes they're using, they're not eliminating that soft portion out of the tile, they're covering it up, putting a clear coat down with fine grit, what they call shark bite as a sandy texture, or crushed walnut shell suspended in paint like in automotive service bays. Unfortunately, all those situations, at some point, a spot wears away or a tool gouges the surface and it opens it up, and then water or fuels or antifreeze or any types of liquids get in there, and it delaminates that protective coating that those folks have put down, and then it starts to peel away, or it becomes a trip hazard as opposed to a slip preventer. Ours does not, is not vulnerable to that because we're not doing any of those things. And most of the other folks that we compete against that do a microscopic or macroscopic etch are altering the surface with a acid-based solution of some type. But ours,
some don't last as long.
Yeah.
Which is why some of them haven't been able to pass the 2-year test. So.
Yeah, the ones that do the macroscopic etch are actually introducing a much stronger solution to accomplish softening the surface to get it ready to move these metal bristle brooms to it. They're actually creating that visible fingerprint, but on the surface where you can actually see it. But it weakens that surface so that foot traffic breaks it away much quicker than if they use something to harden it, which ours actually hardens the surface. Makes it.
You're adding a coating to it? So
Nope.
No, it's a no.
It's an acid etch. So the product is introduced, moved around, rinsed off, and it's gone. It just changes how the surface is. It's not. It doesn't stay put. It all rinses away.
And eventually the surface though smooths out again and you need
It
new
takes
application.
Yeah,
it
it wears down at some point.
Yeah, the tile, when you walk on it in bathtubs, when you use them and clean them, the surface wears down over time, and that's what makes the treatment less effective over time. But it always lasts at least 2 years and sometimes longer, depending on.
Yeah, I have some clients, I call them back up because we resolicit work again because it's not going to last forever. And they'll go, oh, it's still performing fine. We're doing a good job of keeping it clean, because the cleaner you keep the surface and the more that you use non-abrasive cleaning processes to keep the areas clean, the longer that it lasts, because you're not wearing down that 3/1000th of an inch change that we've accomplished on this treated area, and so it does last longer. But we've never had a process fail in sooner than 2 years if it was something where we didn't do the job right or the chemical didn't work properly. If it's not working properly prior to 2 years, it's because they've done something to it
If you use the
to
wrong
eradicate
cleaner, if you use the wrong cleaner, it can cause a buildup on the tile, and that will make it slippery. So we recommend that they use citrus-based cleaners on it because they don't inhibit.
I mean, it's hard to tell on this tile, but as far as the hand on it, you really can't feel any difference as far as the fact that this has not been treated and this has. But once water is introduced to it, there's this huge grip.
Quite similar. Yeah, I can barely. I probably won't be able to tell the difference.
But yeah, when it's been treated, I mean, I'm pushing as hard as I possibly can. It doesn't take much effort at all to get that shoe to move.
And I see you've got several setups here so that people could come and try it themselves.
Right, because that's kind of the best way to do it, is to.
Yeah, the demonstration is the key to this whole.
And it works on the bottoms of your feet. I mean, we've had clients who, will do the tub and they'll take off their shoes and get in because they don't believe it. And it stops your feet. I mean, you don't have to have shoes on for it to work.
Yeah, a director of safety of one of the major casino properties here, who had us doing some exterior areas around the casino, arranged for an appointment for me to meet with their director of housekeeping, and we went in and did a bathtub demonstration area. And they have the little towel bath mat that you set down outside, and so he set that down, and he was checking with the shoe in there, and he goes, "Okay, this is all well and good, but I'm going to test this myself." So he took one shoe and sock off of his right foot, and he stepped into the tub, and he said, "Oh wow!" And then when he really started to put pressure on it, the foot here that was outside the tub that was on the towel slipped out from behind him, and the lady standing behind him, she went, "Oh my, that really does work." The fact you can actually almost push yourself down into the floor out here where you're standing like that. So I've had people, they take their socks and shoes off because they don't believe that it really is going to work. They say, "Oh yeah, it's a trick shoe. This is not going to work with my skin," but it does. Just by virtue of the fact that this particular material on the bottom of the shoe is a material that forensic testing engineers who do slip and fall litigation use in a machine. It's called a slipometer or something similar, and they have these little discs that have this type of material that they screw into the bottom of the machine. They put the machine down on the surface while it's wet, and then they have an anchoring point, and they push a button and it puts tension on it. At some point it breaks loose, and when that does, it generates a number as far as, okay, that's the number of slip resistance. So this shoe, who people make these shoes, this is designed on a similar process to your skin. I mean, this is like a macroscopic view of the human skin, so this is very similar to human skin, so that's why it works so well in bathtubs and showers and around bathtubs and pool areas and stuff. As far as most of the people out there don't have their shoes on, the kids are running around in their bare feet, and the parents are going, "Don't run, you're going to slip and fall." And they know as soon as they get out of that peripheral vision, the kids are off to the races, and then it's all, "Mom, I hurt myself." But we can make up that peripheral difference as far as if we're in place, Mom and Dad don't need to worry about the kids slipping and falling. If they trip over some furniture or something, they might go down, but they're not going to slip on the surface that we've treated.
Where is this manufactured?
We have it manufactured in Los Angeles because there's a close shipping point to both California and Nevada. But the actual formula itself can be manufactured in any variety of locations. I mean, we actually had some made up in Japan one time, just because I was going to be over there presenting to a gentleman, and rather than ship a whole bunch of stuff across the water, we just had it made up right there. It's the actual components to this are not overly hard to get hold of. It's just the specific blending and the other items that go in there create the working solution, as far as it spreads quickly, it doesn't foam at the drain because there's not a lot of foaming ingredients to it, which the old formulations that I used to work with did. And you can't walk away from sitting that might still be active, and someone could inadvertently walk through it. So we've tweaked it to the point to where as soon as water hits it, it's like, it's gray water. As soon as it goes down the drain, it's gray water, so it flows quickly. Standing around and watching paint dry, you can move on to the next section if you're treating a large area, which is an advantage, especially. We did the work out at Boulder Station Casino in their kitchens. I mean, the kitchen area was probably 800 or 900 feet long with all these cooking stations, and we're actually able to work around other people and foodstuffs because the actual formula, the reaction it creates is all heavier than air, so it stays down 18 inches or lower on the floor. So when the chef came over and said, well, you know, how am I supposed to, and we were a 24-hour operation, how am I supposed to cook breakfast for room service? Okay, well, you just need to, we're going to cut your work area in half, and you can move your salt and pepper and your other ingredients down here. We're going to set towels down to show you where our border is at, and we're going to work over here off to your right. We're going to do our work. We're going to rinse it all off. We're going to go take a quick break. We're going to come back, and then you can move all your stuff over to this side, and then we'll work over here to your left. So they don't have to stop operations. They just won't have as much workspace available. So we usually come in like 2 o'clock in the morning when the demand for food is lower, as opposed to going in there at noon in a McDonald's and saying, okay, well, you need to keep your customers out of here while we do all this work here in your lobby. You know, we come in after hours, where if they're totally closed, great. If they're a 24/7 operation, we find a time that's convenient for them to have us come and do the work.
So you're the only two involved? You're the only ones that install?
Well, we call the kids.
Oh yeah, my daughters work with me. I have installers that I've trained over the years in California. Got a couple of guys in Chicago, and the neat thing is the learning curve on this is very, very short. I mean, the tools. I mean, if you had everything that you needed to do, even the larger project, your tools would probably run you about $400. And we were talking extension poles and hoses and applicators and spray nozzles, maybe a wet vac. If you don't have a drain, you suck the water up and then pour it down a dedicated drain where you're allowed to pour the water down. So the tools are very simple, and the training is very quick. It's kind of like you can learn chess very quickly, but it takes years to become a master. Well, you don't need to be a master to install this process, so the learning curve is very short.
You just have to be careful.
Just nobody, don't get in a hurry, because it's an acid solution. It's not designed to get up where it's not supposed to go. I mean, if you're treating the floor, we don't splash it up on the refrigerators or, push it down the drain where cats and dogs are licking it up going down the driveway. It's all contained in the workspace, and then when it's safely neutralized, then anybody can come in contact with it and it's not going to harm them.
So what are your goals for your business? You wanted to just keep it a family business? Or are you looking to expand for others?
Because I want to retire at some point, as much as I enjoy doing this, I have a lot of fun doing this work. I mean, I've had other positions in my life, and I get bored after a while. This has kept my interest now since 1989, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy making areas safe for people. I'm the son of a physician who told me that a lot of his patients in rest homes were there because they slipped and fell in the bathroom of their home, and that's why they ended up with a broken hip and slow recovery, if ever. And so this is something that I can do to mitigate that, so I enjoy doing that. So I'm looking for people who have a similar passion for one, to make a good income from it, but at the same time doing something very positive for the community, and also being environmentally conscious about the fact that what we're doing is a lot less damaging to the earth than some of our competitors' product. I mean, they're on a scale of 0 to 5, a lot of the products that we compete against are a 5, which is really, really bad. 0 is really, really good. My initial product was a 4. Now it's a 3, but when it's rinsed, it's a 0. So we were able to pull things down. I mean, when you hear acid, acid is nasty stuff, but we've got it to the point where it's very safe to work with. If I was going to go out and do a job, if I left right here, I'd put my company shirt on, a pair of jeans, and some sneakers, and I'm ready to go to work. The old stuff, we used to have to wear respirators, industrial gloves, protective apron, goggles. We had to have a fan moving constantly to keep the fumes from being inhaled to any extent, even with respirator. There was a lot of stuff going on. Now it's a very easy situation to work with, so you're not spending a lot of money on uniforms or specialty tools. So this is something that, if it's the right person, they could duplicate this anywhere else in the world. I mean, the formulation is something that can be shipped to them or can be manufactured close to a shipping point where they might be. And as long as, you know, the confidentiality agreement is signed off, and this, because it's a non-disclosure situation, this is proprietary. I deliberately did not patent it, because if you patent it, and anybody who has access to the U.S. Patent Office, if they want to issue a challenge, they're given your whole list to see, is this guy, did he duplicate you, did he copycat you? And then my cat would be completely out of the bag, and I don't want that to ever happen, because I do have a little secret involved with this, that if my competitors knew what it was, I wouldn't be as competitive. So I like to maintain that.
So the guys that help you develop this, they know.
Yep, they all had to sign off with severe financial penalties if they ever do reveal the secret. If, I mean, actually, they'd be doing a favor if I won in court. I wouldn't have to work again. I'd rather make it doing the work than suing somebody and collecting damages.
Well, it seems to me if you keep the formula, like the Coca-Cola formula, it's not patented, it's just secret.
Oh,
Yep.
really?
Yeah,
Yep. Coke and Pepsi.
it's secret, you know? And anyway, if that's the case, you can make the money on selling the product, training people like in a franchise situation.
Yeah, we haven't, we briefly tried it probably 15 years ago, and we didn't really have much luck with it at that point, so we haven't really gone back and tried again.
Well, it sounds to me like it would be a great business opportunity for someone. The reason I'm asking is because the team needs to know who the audience is you're trying to reach. Are you trying to reach prospective business owners, or are you trying to reach somebody that will buy a product to use it, or are you just trying to reach an end user that you're going to sell your services to? And is
Right
that
now-
end user just going to be commercial, and how much?
Right.
You know, so there's so many directions to go in this one. There's only so much time to develop. The question is, what kind of materials do you see you need the most? Looked at the website, there's not a lot of information on there. Doesn't look very professional, it looks really amateurish.
Basic.
And yet you are a very good presenter, you know your product. Not only is it technically understood by you, but you can explain that to others. My first impression when they're explaining this is, oh, this sounds to me like a product you would do an infomercial on, but you're not doing it to the end user who would buy a product and use it. But something like that, where you need a video presentation, getting it online, you need some resources to help you transmit and support the messaging.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it sounds to me like you've been doing it with a sales approach, a personal sales approach, one-on-one.
Right.
I used to put together an annual publication for 20 years, and it's a lot of work to produce that. And then when it was produced, I'd have to go start all over again. And my wife said, why don't you do a project that just goes on and on and on? So I shot pictures and printed lots of copies and sold them in stores. And one project, and it just keeps selling itself. So those are the two kind of projects. Seems like you're doing the first kind of project. You make the money as you do the work, as opposed to letting the product make the money and selling the product and selling the opportunity to other people, and therefore magnify your profit-making abilities because you're making money off of other people making money.
Right.
And that's how to become wealthy. When I was an undergraduate, I went to BYU, and the joke was, how do you become a millionaire at BYU? You get a student job, and then you work 1,000,000 hours, right? How do you become a millionaire today? You sell a product online and make $1 on it, and you sell 1,000,000 of them. That's a lot easier because 1,000,000 hours is a limited commodity that you don't have, but 1,000,000 sales out of the world, very, very, very doable. So I would think that would best do for you, students would do something that generates others being sold on going into the business and making the money off of selling the product. If it's proprietary, the business model might be, we sell you the product. I mean, if you work for Amway, you buy Amway products. They don't give you the formula and you manufacture it. They sell you the product.
Exactly, yeah.
And so you're buying from us an opportunity at the product with the training and the process, which is pretty easy to do. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You buy a product as you need it. It seems to me that would be one way of going. The materials you produce for that would be different than if you're producing materials for trying to sell your neighbors or individual residents on buying this. And then where do they buy it? And do they apply it themselves? You're really selling a service. So the question is, do you sell a service or do you sell a product or both? And you could easily have several businesses here. One that just specializes in the service aspect and is proprietary and does this. And, you can do it yourself. You want to save some money and you sell more product that way. You're more likely to make more money probably if you go to big businesses and you got big accounts and you have someone who's installing that and you make so much money off of that because, you're employees and you're not having to go out there and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized you seem to me that you want to keep your business small because it's enjoyable, you have a lot of control, you don't have this, a lot of issues that come with business growth.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being a sole proprietor and not having employees because that just opens up a whole new can of worms. But if you're looking at retiring, and I would look at going the franchise route. It doesn't have to be like McDonald's where you're very complicated, but just saying, look, you buy a business opportunity, it's very reasonable, it's a very easy buy-in, you're basically paying for the contract to receive product from us and the training, and then you're set up, and then you've set up yourselves a product flow, a sales flow, and very easy to maintain.
If you get the right people, it's tough. That's a tough part of it. I mean, that's probably the part we've had problems with before, is getting people to come in and then they're like, well, I don't have time to do this, or I'm doing this over here too.
Well, then they don't want to make money.
Well, exactly. And that's kind of who we ended up with when we've tried it.
Yeah, I mean, we initially pursued interested parties who had janitorial or carpet cleaning type operations, where this was a value added for them. The fact that they're already going in the buildings and cleaning the offices and stuff, and so, hey, Mr. Building owner, not only can I clean your carpets and vacuum, I can eliminate these slippery areas in your bathrooms and your walkways and your front entry, and if you'd like a proposal on that, I can shoot one to you. And but they just had that mindset going that this is my primary business is the janitorial, and this is the stepchild. So once in a while, the stepchild has to be fed, so we'll go out and close a contract somewhere. And then they would get frustrated, call me, say, hey, I'm not closing any business, or I'm not doing any contracts, and I know that you wanted me to order a minimum number of gallons each year to keep viable, to keep my territory, my distributorship. I'm going to fall short because I haven't sold enough contracts. So now what do? So then I'm dealing with these, whiners. And so we backed off from that, and also the fact that the way this is applied, we move it around on the surface. It's designed to stay on the surface. It's almost like, I hate to use the word painting because that implies we're putting paint or a coating. It's not a coating, it's an etch, but we're painting the surface with these motions. And most janitors are used to handling a mop and they're swinging it back and forth. Well, if that acid is flipping off the end of that mop, where's it going? It's not going where it's supposed to go. It's going up on stainless steel. If it hits stainless steel and sets up, it looks like someone let milk dry on the surface. And then you're buying a whole brand new Sub-Zero refrigerator or a Wolf commercial oven, $6,000 worth of oven that you're going to have repolished or repaired or replaced. So the janitorial mindset, because I used to use janitorial people as temporary labor, and they had this whole thing, they're trying to flip it up, and it's like, no, it's supposed to stay down on the floor. You're just supposed to you're just distributing that liquid over the surface area for a specified period of time, and you don't need to push down, you're not forcing it into the surface, you're just moving it along. And they just had a tough time dealing with that. So that was the stumbling block that I was encountering initially. So I just pulled it all back, and you know.
There's a lot of chemicals involved in janitorial, but there's a lot of just physical moving things around, the tactile, okay? Mechanical cleaning and chemical cleaning are completely different things, and I don't even use a lot of chemicals in my cleaning. I clean my mirrors with water and a clean towel.
Yeah.
It works
Yeah.
just
Works
as well.
just as well. Mhm.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of those kind of things. It's simply because it's not the chemical that's doing the work, it's the abrasion, or it's the tension and the dragging the stuff off.
Yeah, the elbow grease. And ours is just the reverse. The
But
chemical's doing the work. You don't need to wear out your elbow doing it.
Yes, and that's what you have to understand, that if the chemicals really work, and that's the magic in the chemicals. So, well, there's certainly a lot of information here on your approach. Understand your love for this baby. Understand there's to train, but difficult to get the right person to apply it. And it sounds like there might be some liability issues that could be spun off like that. And it's not like you can sell Windex, and how do you screw up Windex? As long as you don't spray it in the face, I mean, what
Yeah.
are you going to do
Exactly.
wrong with Windex, right?
Exactly.
This, though, you could be liable just selling your product in that. I don't know if you've explored all those issues in that, but what the team needs to know is, what audience are you trying to reach? How do you think, what would help you reach? Currently, it's a one-on-one sales presentation, and maybe there might be some aids during the presentation, slide set, some videos, online materials you could refer to, a leave-behind printed piece. What in the process of what you're currently doing now, did you think, oh, I wish I had this piece to help me better communicate? That's one set of design pieces, communication pieces that you can come up with for a recommendation. The other one would be what do you want to expand to? If we were going to try a different approach, some of the difficulties you had in the past are not overcomable.
Right.
You had mentioned find the right person. Well, what materials would find the right person? What's the messaging that would reach the right person? Okay? And see, so if that's the problem you want to solve, that's a whole different audience, a whole different format you use to reach them, and a different messaging that you're going to reach them. I had mentioned when they explained this to me, you probably want to have some sort of an illustration showing the microscopic level, even maybe atomic level, molecular level, of how the surface looks and how it's reacting in that, to visualize that it's not like painting where you're adding to a surface and it's not like the other ones. If you don't have something like that, that needs to be developed, because explaining the technical aspect of it, there is a physical aspect to it because you're etching it, right? You're changing the physical structure. But there's a chemical nature to it. And what does it look like? Help people understand that science and that technology on a way that seems really believable. So that kind of a design and that kind of an illustration would be very helpful.
Okay.
And some of the technical things you had said. So that's your challenge, is to come up with what market are you trying to reach? Who's the customer? And you might have multiples. I would suggest you'd stick to one thing and do it well. Like, okay, let's come up with some ideas for reaching residential, or reaching those
Well-
who make the decision for big commercial
Yeah, we
projects.
we had a long time ago talked about doing a home installed tub kit.
Oh, a kit like a DIY thing, like at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that.
But that's,
I still have the prototype around somewhere. It all fit nicely in about the same size box as a Just for Men hair dye
That
kit.
being the case, you would need packaging.
right.
You would need a box design. Now I have, let's see, I have an advanced class, but this would be a great project for them to do. They've already got their clients picked.
Well, initially, I guess, because that's something that is a whole other ball of wax because of liability issues and stuff like that. I mean, that requires a different kind of insurance and stuff that we're not prepared to go into right at the moment.
But there is insurance for that, because obviously if you're selling Drano in a grocery store, the company that manufactures the Drano's got that product liability, knowing that, you know, at some point someone's going to come along and open that bottle up and go, what's this in here? And get to hear about that. I mean, that's why poison control is enforced, because there are a lot of items out there that are highly toxic, highly caustic, that are, you know, life-threatening, and they're all, you know, they all got their
So you're-
bottle with their name on it in a store somewhere, so they've overcome that somewhere. So there's an insurance carrier that's covering that liability.
Right, and that would require an investment that we don't have right now, so.
So your control of that objection is to have a qualified professional trained to apply it and just give a service instead of a product available to them?
Well, yeah, because we just haven't had the money to, you know, fork out to have it all done.
But it would be fairly doable.
That would be nice.
Of selling the rights to somebody else in a certain market to do this and properly train them and have part of the contract where they accept the liability of the application and all that. And so anyway, sounds like you've tried some of the stuff in that and maybe you're a little bit gun shy and on some of those
Probably.
things. But the team needs to know what approach you want to go.
Okay.
You need to define the audience, the specific audience, and not just their age group and, you know, their
Well-
marital status or whether they own a home or not.
Yeah, their annual
What are they
income
interested in
and
doing? Are you reaching, like, for example, is the audience the do-it-yourselfer? No. Maybe. Why? Because the do-it-yourselfer can't do this. Because there is no product out there like that. For example, I would love to get the product and apply it to the tiling of my new shower, my new house that I'm buying.
Mhm.
I put in a new tiled shower. I would love to have that in there. Well, I don't have the product available to me, but then I'm going to get somebody to come in because I can't do it. Okay, so it could be the do-it-yourselfer or the guy does his own projects, but he can't do this project. So, you know, from your experience, help them to define the audience that you're trying to
Yeah, because
reach.
right now the audience would be business people. You need to be, the health and safety guys, the housekeeping departments,
the general manager of the hotel.
mhm.
So you need some sort of very credible, professional presentation that you can leave behind or refer to. I'm thinking a combination. I would recommend something to do with a video presentation. Not that they would be able to produce one, but could come up with the script, the points you're being made, suggestion. They're going to present to you at the end of the semester a presentation of recommendations
Okay.
that they're trying to sell you on investing in. And if it'd be a brochure, then the design works for you, the content, and you might use it as is, or take the idea and work on it from there. Certainly, one of your family members who's in this class could easily do that one.
I mean, yeah, the